While most of the characters in the movie are ones we've met in the series, Yuta and Rika are brand new to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. What's it like being the newcomers to the franchise?
Honestly, I have felt very welcomed by not just fans, but like other members of the dub cast
Mm-hmm.
have been so kind and welcoming. And I knew a couple of them previously just as colleagues. But they have been so nice, and I have just been so happy to be a part of it. Uh, I put a dampener on my excitement until they actually announced us. So that I was like, it's not real until it's real. Like it's not real until it's out. Um, don't get too excited, just have fun, portraying it. And then it came out, and I was immediately like, okay, let's go.
No!
And it was very fun.
Yeah, no,
It's been
similar.
very
Like, definitely super welcomed by the fans, the community, the actors, and the directors as well. And also, like, a part of me had always hoped, I was like, oh, I hope I can get into Jujutsu Kaisen one of these days. I don't know as what character, but that'd be cool. And for it to be Rika, who is such an interesting character that
Oh my
taps
god.
into like two archetypes I haven't really played with much, which is playing little girls and being kind of monstrous and getting to kind of blend
Yeah.
that into one. Um, that was really fun. So I was like, oh heck yeah, let's go. This is fun.
That was, oh my gosh, because I've watched it. So I was like, oh, this is so good. It's, oh my God. I was so happy. I've been waiting for this movie for a while. So like
Hmm.
it went beyond everything I wanted. So it was
Hmm.
fantastic. What are you most excited about with the film's release? Does it feel any different to be coming into this with a theatrical release compared to a new anime season?
It definitely does for me. Um, I've had one other movie that I was in theaters with Anairis. Uh
Uh-huh.
played a different version of the same character.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah.
Oh, that's
Uh-huh.
cool.
So it's actually really fun to sort of do that again. Our characters are connected again.
Hmm.
Um and so that's been really cool, and I'm very excited for it to come out in theaters. But for the last movie, I my character was definitely um they were there for like 10 minutes, right? Um until the character switched their form. But in this movie, I get to be
It's
in the whole
you.
thing. I get to
Yes.
stretch and flex, and for people to be able to see that like depth of my performance in theaters is it makes me very nervous but also very excited. And
Hmm.
I know I'm happy with my performance, and I just am really excited for people to see uh that character portrayed, as well as like with Anaris and that dynamic. It's just personally, I think it's one of the coolest things.
Oh yeah, I was talking to because we have the same agent, and I was talking to our agent. And I was like, "Hey, so we're gonna continue this trend with Kayleigh where we're just in the same movie?" And he's like, "Yeah, totally." Um, yeah, no, it's really cool. Because the movie that we're talking about, Sword Art Online,
Mhm.
progressive, that was my first theatrical release, and it was like very cool and exciting. Um, and I was like, oh, this is my work, and I was very proud of that work, and it was very cool to see that, I guess, displayed widely for distribution, right? So to get to do that again was something that I'm just as proud of, if not a little bit more, because I
Mhm.
played with new archetypes, and I think I'm really proud of what I did. And I'm happy like with the cast that we have. Kayleigh did great. Everyone did great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So to do that for another big series is pretty awesome. So.
Kaylee, I have to say, you get to play a character that like has this really awesome, inspiring like transformation from like I don't want to be here anymore to what is my reason to living to I'm staying. And it's like it's fantastic to watch. It's so cool. And like the question I was gonna ask you was because what's interesting about Yuta is that Yuta's mentioned in the series, and everybody like respects the hell out of Yuta automatically. But in the movie, we get to see the beginning of like how that even like started. So, what's it like portraying a character who we get to see basically grow into the character we already heard about in the anime series?
So I had known that he was mentioned and that people had that idea of him in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super excited to portray, like, seeing from the very first scene uh in the booth, seeing what he's like, and immediately going, oh, this character becomes that. This is going to be a really fun ride. And I got to admit, when I auditioned, I didn't realize that that was that character that I had heard in the show. So I just did my best for what was there. And then it was only once I was cast that I was like, oh, that's who that is. Ooh, that'll be cool. But I'm almost a little glad because it let me, because Yuta, uh, when he's starting out like that, also, obviously doesn't know who he's going to become. And I think keeping some of that true actually really helped me perform him and get cast. But then like going through that evolution was just a really fun experience and like thing to consider and roll around in my head and play with. It was very cool.
I love it. That's exactly the vibe I got from Yuta. Like I was pumped for Yuta, and like I was like, you guys get to see how Yuta became Yuta, and it's so amazing to watch. And like I'm like, yes, awesome. Anairis, this question is for you. Rika and Yuta's story manages to be a mix of endearing, tragic, and a bit unsettling all at once. How do you balance between being sweet, being creepy, then combining both of those things at the end?
Oh man, I think so I had like 2 hours to record, right? And we started with human Rika, and we're very much setting the foundation, right? And for me, like I wanted to make sure that, I sounded like a kid and I acted like a kid. And Kayleigh made it very easy. There were some scenes where we were laughing together, our characters were laughing together and everything, and it was just kind of leaning into the playfulness and what it was like to be a kid. Um, and so that was like what I started with, and then we would get into Cursed Rika, and then was figuring out exactly what I wanted to do with that. And I think I figured out, oh, okay, this is childish, but in a kind of tantrumy, toxic way.
Yeah.
And I was playing with that. I was just kind of figuring out the duality between Cursed Rika and Human Rika. Um, and I felt like for Cursed Rika, she showed parts of Human Rika that we never got to see, and we can't really be entirely sure if that really is, Rika or just the curse, who knows? Um, and so I was playing with that, and trying to ground that as much as I can, because yeah, I'm being creepy, I'm, being obsessive and jealous and
Mm-hmm.
bloodthirsty. But at her core, she's still a kid. She's a kid who is just in love with Yuta,
Mm-hmm.
as she always has been, and that's just kind of become very, very distorted, I guess, through the curse. And so it was making sure, okay, I want to display this love authentically and genuinely, and this childishness authentically and genuinely, but then let's also like kind of drag out our words and sound creepy as well.
Yes. Yes, it was. I love it. I love it. So that is
Nothing
actually
creepier than a dead kid being mostly a kid.
yes, yes. That's what makes it so. Because I'm like, there's still Rika's still a child. Like
Mhm.
Yuta's grown up, Rika has not. So Rika's still
Mhm.
in that like, however old they are. I would guess like 5, 6, maybe like very
Mhm.
like young age, and that like young idea of love. And we said we were gonna be together forever. And
Forever.
right. And I'm like, this is the creep level that like unsettles me. I don't do well with horror, but I love it anyway. So
I
this
feel you.
was this was perfect.